Welcome, everyone, and it is so nice to have you here at this information session about the Department of Animal Sciences. I am Dr. Steyn, and I am a ruminant nutritionist within the Department of Animal Sciences. And so if we do see you at Stellenbosch University next year, I'm very excited to be able to welcome you as one of your lecturers. I'm so glad that you are here for this presentation, because this means that you are interested in looking at a career in animal science. And I really hope that throughout this information session that you will gain more insight into what animal science is, because it is a bit of a misnomer and something that people are not necessarily familiar with, but it is actually something that touches all of our lives. We just don't always realize it. So I'm really excited to welcome you, and I really hope that this is going to provide some insight and that you are going to be excited to join us next year and to pursue a career in animal science. And remember, this is but the first step. All right, so let's get started with the presentation. So first of all, we're going to look at what is animal science. Now, animal science in Afrikaans is called veekunde. And for those of you watching that do understand Afrikaans, the term veekunde is actually a much better description of what animal science is, because veekunde is referring specifically to vee, which are production animals. So animals that we use for human consumption or for human products, right? So animal science covers the scientific study of the physiology, the nutrition, the breeding, and the products of different production animals. Now, within the field of animal science, we are primarily focusing on the animal, as the name suggests. So you'll see that we have the animal in the middle, and we have some bubbles coming off it on the side, and these bubbles are referring to different aspects that play an important role in animal science, and which are the things that we actually look at within animal science. So we have to consider the reproduction of an animal. We also have to consider the production of an animal, all right? And the production of an animal, as well as the reproduction, will depend heavily on the management of that animal. Furthermore, we also have to look at the environment that the animal is based in. Is it in situ or ex situ? And those funny words are saying, are we looking at an animal in its natural habitat, or are we looking at an animal that is in a contained, essentially artificial habitat? Okay. Then we also have to consider the genetics of the animal. Within the reproduction and production, we also have to look at the growth and maintenance requirements of that animal, as well as the health and well-being. And all of these are aspects that we actually consider within the realm of animal science. And before we move on, I just want to highlight in the sentence at the top, those words that are in bold, those are the 4 pillars of animal science. So within all of the different production animals, we look at the physiology of those animals, the nutrition of those animals, the breeding of the animals, and then at the products that those animals produce. All right. So within animal science, just to give you some insight again, as an example, we have 2 pictures up on the slide looking at lamb anatomy versus chicken anatomy. And just looking at the pictures, you can see that there is a big difference between these 2 different types of animals. And lambs or sheep are what we call ruminant animals, and chickens are what we call monogastric animals. And that essentially dictates how we have to care for and feed these animals to actually obtain the production and reproduction that we are looking for. So this is part of the study of animal science, is looking at the physiology and anatomy of these animals and how they differ from each other. So just to give you some context into animal science in South Africa, in South Africa, we have a lot of different production animals and large numbers of these. So there's some figures up on the slide, just to give you a picture of the grand scheme or the great scale of animal science in South Africa. So you'll see just an example, poultry, we have around 38.2 million poultry in South Africa. So this is a very large number, and this is the realm where we are working as animal scientists. Now, looking at the bigger picture of animal science and animal production, and the sector where you will be involved as an animal scientist, animal production makes up around 46% of the agricultural gross value of South Africa. So animal production plays an important role in the economic sustainability of our country. So you are playing a role in this, essentially. Furthermore, food security, which is a very relevant topic which we always need to consider. How do we feed our nation? And so animal production plays a very important role in food security. And you actually get to be a part of that, which is very exciting. And then with reference to the pictures, just to give you some background, you see South Africa there. And if we look at cattle, sheep, and pigs, you can see based on the colors where the highest density of these animals occur. So for example, sheep, you will see they occur quite a lot in the Northern Cape, whereas pigs and cattle actually do not occur there so much. And the reason for this is the environment and the way that we manage these animals. So these are the things that we look at within animal science. Now, to give you a little bit of background on the Department of Animal Sciences, we are actually one of the oldest departments in South Africa, and we were established in 1921. So I think that is quite significant, and we are very proud of that. And you'll see a picture there of the old animal science milking parlor that was built around that period where we were established. So this is an original photo from way back when. Okay, we can't even comprehend this date actually. And then just to share the vision of the Department of Animal Sciences, our vision is to train animal scientists that can actually contribute to research, extension work, and the development of needs of South Africans to improve the quality of life of all its inhabitants. So again, the concept of food security comes into this. Okay, so this is our basic goal, is to ensure food security for all South African inhabitants. Now, within the Department of Animal Sciences, we have quite a large team of academics and support staff. So here are some pictures of the different academic staff that are working at the Department of Animal Science and who will be teaching you. So you'll see that it is divided up into the 4 legs of animal science. So your physiology, breeding, nutrition, and then your product science. And of course, we have our support staff. There are more of them. We just can't fit everybody onto the slide. But our support staff obviously play a very important role, and you will be interacting with them a lot as well. And you'll see that there's quite a lot of academics actually working within the nutrition field, but that is because we actually differentiate within nutrition between ruminants and monogastric animals. And so those are 2 separate fields that are actually researched. Now, if you are considering, or when you decide to come to join us next year, this is just to give you an overview of the undergraduate program which you will be completing. And so it is a 4-year BSc degree, and the first year is almost the same for all of the BSc students within the Faculty of AgriScience. And so you will be doing your basic chemistry, physics, mathematics, and biology subjects. And that the reason for us, for you having to do those subjects is because you will become an animal scientist. And to be a scientist, you need these fundamentals of science as your foundation. All right, so we all have to go through mathematics and physics, but don't worry, you will get through it. Okay. And then in second year, we start to introduce some animal science related subjects. So you start with animal physiology as well as an introduction to animal nutrition. And then in second year, you carry on with your fundamental sciences, so including biochemistry, and then genetics and microbiology. And in your third year, this is usually when students really start to enjoy their degree, where you are basically only doing animal science related subjects. And what is also nice is that during this time, you really get to actually mingle with your class, because in the beginning, it's big groups and you're all moving around. And at this point in third year, it's basically a consistent group and you guys are moving around together. So that really becomes nice, and there's really nice unity that begins to form within the class. And then so just again in third year, we start with basically laying the foundation for the animal science principles. And then in fourth year, we look at the application of animal science principles. And so here we look at animal nutrition on an advanced level. We look at animal management. We also carry on with animal breeding and genetics. And then here we also have the introduction of meat science, which is essentially what we would call product science. And so you're actually going to investigate the way that meat is processed from slaughter up until the consumer purchases the product, and how do we maintain that quality throughout. And so that is a very exciting direction to go into as well. And here we have a lot of overlap with food science as well. Right. Now, we have the opportunity for postgraduate studies as well. And so a lot of our students do choose to actually carry on to do a Masters of Science in Animal Science. You can also do a master's in sustainable agriculture, which is a sort of a combined degree, and it is actually working with other departments within the Faculty of AgriScience, and you are getting a wider overview of sustainable agriculture, not just from an animal science point, but also from soil science and from conservation ecology, and so on, just as an example. And then you can also do a postgraduate diploma in aquaculture. And you can also then, of course, carry on to do a PhD. But at this stage, that is not your concern. So just get here and start your first year and just push through until you get to your third year, where you're really going to feel that you are actually studying what you have wanted to study. Okay, we were all there, and unfortunately, we all have to go through it. We are very lucky at the University of Stellenbosch. We have quite a lot of facilities available for postgraduate and undergraduate and postgraduate training. And so you'll see that we have two different experimental farms. We have one called the Welgevallen Experimental Farm, which is actually situated in town, in the Stellenbosch town. And then we have the Mariendal Experimental Farm, which is situated just a little bit outside of town. We also have an animal unit at the department. Then we have the Animal Physiology Skills Lab, where you will essentially be doing dissections, learning about the anatomy of production animals. We have the Animal Nutrition Lab, which is very exciting, where we actually do the collection of rumen fluid, and we can actually simulate the rumen environment for research purposes, and we incorporate this into our undergraduate studies as well. Then we have the Meat Science Lab, where we have a big walk-in freezer and a big walk-in cooler, where we often have carcasses hanging that are being processed for research purposes, and the undergraduate students also get to be involved with that process. We have the Animal Reproduction Laboratory, and then we also have a Molecular Genetics Laboratory within the Department of Animal Science. So we are excited to be able to share those facilities, and actually we do incorporate them as far as possible into our undergraduate teaching to give you a very good overall experience. Now, there's a few things that we do at the Department of Animal Sciences. Not everything is listed here, but one of the things we have is our annual auction. We have the Terra Vino stud, which is based at the Mariendal Research Farm. And so we have a yearly auction, which is a very exciting event. Although the last few times I attended, it was very rainy, but usually it's very fun. And here is a very nice way of seeing how the application of animal breeding and genetics principles actually allows for the breeding of these world-class animals. So this is a very practical example of animal breeding and genetics, which will be incorporated into your undergraduate studies. We also really encourage hands-on training. And so I've just included a few pictures here of students over the last 2 or 3 years. You'll see the students on the left are actually busy collecting rumen fluid. And this was for undergraduate research project that they were doing. Then we have a student with an abalone in her hands. So this is upon a visit to an abalone growing farm. Then we also have students at a lambing facility in the Southern Cape. And then we have a student on the right, and she's holding up sample tubes because she will be sampling calves for the identification of microbial resistant bacteria. So these are all exciting opportunities that will also be available to you when you come to study your undergraduate degree at Stellenbosch University. And then the highlight of the year is always the South Cape tour. So this takes place at the beginning of every year, and all the final year animal science students go on this tour. And it is a tour of the Southern Cape. And we load you all on a bus and off you go. And you can see just from the pictures, it really is a social event. So of course it is for education as well. And we take you to different farms and different management systems so that you can see what is being done in the industry, but it is also a social activity. And so this is, again, a very nice place where you are going to make lifelong friends, which, is a really exciting option. And people that actually share your passion for animals. And then it's very important to consider where you can work one day. So there are a range of job opportunities within the industry or in the field of animal science. And you'll see there's a couple of names listed below. And so if you are interested, you can definitely go and Google these different names, have a look at the company profiles and what it is that they do. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many more companies in South Africa that you can work for. But typically, if you complete your BSc in animal sciences, you will be eligible to be introduced into the industry as a technical or on a technical level. And this is a great way to actually get your feet wet and to really learn the industry from a first-hand experience. And so you can do this within the feed industry, you can do this within the reproduction and genetics industry, you can do this within the product science industry. There really are a lot of different types of companies where you can work. If you decide to carry on and complete your master's degree first, then it is possible that you can actually enter into the workforce on a more managerial level because you have some this extra education and extra exposure within your 2 years of completing your master's degree. And again, you can go into any one of the fields. And then again, a PhD, I'm not going to talk about that now because that is a problem for another day. All right. And so that is basically the end of my talk. We have some questions available at the end that I will quickly just touch on 1 or 2 of them. But if you do have any questions, please do contact our chair of the department, Dr. Van Sale, or you can also contact Mrs. Adele Smith-Karstens. She's the departmental secretary, and they are very happy to always help and assist with more information that might be needed. All right. And then we can quickly have a look. These are some questions that we typically get. And I think the most important one that I do need to quickly talk about is what is the difference between animal science and veterinary science? So animal science there's a lot of ways that I can explain this, but animal science is basically we are working with healthy animals and we are trying to improve their production. So we're looking at things like how much are they growing? What is their well-being? Are they healthy? How do we keep stress levels down? All right. Whereas if you look at veterinary science, you are essentially working with sick animals and you are trying to cure them and and make them better. All right. So there definitely is an overlap between the two. We work together a lot, but studying animal science is not the same as studying veterinary science. So we cannot do what the vets do, but the vets also cannot do what we do, because we are specializing in animal science, whereas they are doing all different species and really from a clinical point of view. So that's very important to remember. And then let me see, there's no other questions that I'm going to answer now. I think the vet one is the most important, but please do reach out to us if you have any questions, and we are really looking forward to welcoming you in the new year. And all the best, and thank you for joining us. Bye.